Hello, Spartan fans. Welcome to our January 21st edition, conference season edition of Center Court. I'm joined as always by head coach Eddie Payne. And the Spartans, after picking up a win in their conference opener, dropped back-to-back disappointing decisions, first on the road at Lipscomb and then here at home against Northern Kentucky. And coach, those, like all conference games seem to be in the Atlantic Sun Conference over the last several years, go right down to the wire.
Well, those two did. I mean, 2-point loss at Lipscomb and a 1-point loss here at home against Northern Kentucky, two really one-possession games. And, you know, you look around the country in all conference play, and there's a lot of upsets, if you want to call them that. They're not necessarily that, but they're tight games, unusual games, unexpected winners, those kinds of things. So that's the nature of conference play. Well,
it's in the conference play that you're battling for a spot in the championship tournament. And the play seems to be elevated by all teams when so much is on the line.
Yeah, I mean, in our league in particular, I think the home court aspect to seeding has a lot to do with the games and being, elevated importance. And we just got to try to play one game at a time and try to get a little bit better. It's not like we're far off, but we, one or two plays made a difference in both those games.
Let's take a look back at the key plays from both those contests. Here are the highlights of the road trip to Lipscomb and the home loss against Northern Kentucky. Conference basketball in the Atlantic Sun between the Northern Kentucky Norse and USC Upstate Spartans saw the Norse still one away, 66-65 inside the Hodge Center. And Phil, you look back at this one, a game Upstate led by 8 at the break. They led by as many as 13 down the stretch, but Northern Kentucky saw the three ball come to life for them when it counted, and they end up with a 66-65 win.
A lot of times that can be the difference. Northern Kentucky not able to get them to go down in the first half, and they dropping like flies in the second half. A little interesting there in the Northern Kentucky. Looked like they may try to let this one slip away themselves, but congratulations to the Norse. Big win for their program, really.
Let's take a look back at the highlights in this one, and you're going to see an awful lot of Ty Green and Fred Miller for USC Upstate. Another thing you're going to see a whole bunch of, Billups on the inside, and then when it counted, Johnson comes to life from three-point land on the outside for Northern Kentucky.
Boy, did he ever. Not a big guy out there on the floor, but doing things that the Norse needed to do to not only get back in the game, but to take the lead, and he was big in that comeback and that ultimate win. Shots just went down, and Upstate tried to fight back, but again, congratulations to the Norse for a big win going forward. Now 2-1 in the league.
The Norse 39-11 advantage on bench points. They out-rebounded the Spartans early in this game, and when it counted, they made the shots they needed to down the stretch. Northern Kentucky certainly able to come away with what is, as you said, Phil, a marquee win on the road here in Spartanburg. Second time they've been able to do that in the young history of this series. All right, as we talk about the Spartans who made a major impact in this game, a couple of the seniors coming up big. As we look at our Spartans of the game, Green ends up with 22, Miller with 16. They're everything they were advertised to be in this one again.
They did everything that's exactly right that they were asked to do. 22 points for Green, some big points late. Also, Miller chipping in with 16, but not quite enough as Northern Kentucky gets the win. But those guys, as we said, definitely our Spartans of the game today.
Here's a look at the overall numbers for the second consecutive conference loss for the Spartans. They fall to 1-2 in conference play thus far. What jumps out off the stat sheet at you?
Well, just some head-shaking numbers, quite frankly. I mean, Upstate has played so well defensively this year. You allow Northern Kentucky to shoot almost right at 50%. And then some numbers you just kind of shake your head at, quite frankly. That Upstate shoots 76% from the foul line, then turns it over just 7 times and still not able to get the win. But then you look all the way down and look at the bench production for Northern Kentucky. They outscore Upstate off the pine by 28. And when you have that big of a disparity in a stat like that, a lot of times that'll put you over the top.
So it's the Northern Kentucky Norse picking up their second win all-time over USC Upstate, their second win in conference play. In 2015, they do it with a 1-point margin in this one. All right, Coach, so the outcome on those two, not quite what you were looking for. What have you taken away
from these 2 games this week as you head into another tough stretch?
Well, there's not a whole lot other than the fact that we didn't execute certain things properly, and the other team did. I don't know if execution is the right word. For example, the Johnson kid made some really deep, tough threes late in the Northern Kentucky game, but he made them. We had some breakdowns, and which hurt us. And in spite of all that, we clawed our way back, and Ty made a big 4-point play. Then we got the steal, had a chance to win. That didn't work out. But so we're close. We just got to keep grinding away at getting better at little things and executing better.
You had the ball at the end in both of those games with a pretty good shot both times. And Ty Green, you talked about his play. He comes up with 22 again in your game at home against Northern Kentucky and really has those timely buckets. You mentioned the 4-point play. Who will ever forget that? He seems to really be, he along with Fred Miller and Blessing, who we always seem to talk about every week, really leading the way for your team.
Yeah, and we think they can play better. I know those youngsters think they can play better. Get their shooting percentages get a little bit better. We get a little bit better looks in certain half-court situations, and those are all aspects of executing better, getting better, being more efficient on the offensive end, as well as certain things we're trying to shore up on the defensive end.
Another player that has emerged for you of late is Shunquez Stevens, really making a difference in the rebounding department. Let's check in with Shunquez now, as he is our get-to-know-your Spartan for this week.
If I could be any animal, it would be a lion, because it's the king of the jungle. And it controls, everything, and nobody messes with a lion, or no other animal messes with a lion. So that would probably be the reason why it's my favorite animal. My dream vacation would probably be going overseas to like Italy or something. I've always wanted to, travel the world when I graduate or later in life. And Italy seems like a place where, most people want to visit. So that's my place. Why do people say I look like Sinbad? I never look at pictures, or I never look at Sinbad until somebody was like, hey, you look like Sinbad. Do I look like Sinbad? I would probably say yes, because seeing pictures, I kind of look like the dude. And it's not a bad thing, because he's famous. So if I'm looking like somebody famous, then I don't mind it. And so I think it's what people say about me looking like Sinbad is true. I chose basketball because it's a little bit better than football. I mean, football is fun, but basketball seems more like a family, sport, and you get to know just the 12 guys that's on your team. And in football, you have so many guys that you have to know, and there's so many egos and this and that. So I think basketball was easier for me to play. I'm still adjusting to it, but I feel like, I'm getting better, and I like basketball a little bit better. Why is Duck Dynasty my favorite TV show? Firstly, Duck Dynasty is not my favorite TV show. I haven't watched Duck Dynasty since the first episode. I think I got asked that question on a survey or something when I first got here, and I chose Duck Dynasty because I watched it a few times. But it is definitely not my favorite show. I would say my favorite show is Walking Dead. It's a really nice TV show, but Duck Dynasty is not my favorite TV show. People probably don't know that I like classic cars. I actually have a classic car. I have a 1969 Cutlass Supreme. I'm in love with classic cars. It's been one of my passions. When I get older, I really want to own a classic car dealership, so that's probably something nobody knows about me. My dream job is probably owning my own business. I have a really strong passion about owning my own business too. I don't want to be told what to do when I get a job. I want to be telling people what to do. So it would probably be like opening like a sports facility, helping develop skills for amateur athletes. That's probably something I would probably look into as I continue or in the future. So that's probably my dream job.
people know you and they get to know you on a personal level and they know your abilities.
And this is really a place where I have seen, and I mean this is a place where I've seen students come here and really try to figure out who it is that they are.
Is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? And I think every college kid go through that. But being here at Upstate and being a part of so many different programs, I know what my purpose is. And I can say that with confidence.
You don't get lost in the crowd at Upstate.
USC Upstate is a place where people can discover themselves.
Welcome back to Center Court, fans. Now we turn our attention to the women's basketball program. Coach Tammy George alongside, and Coach, your team splits your conference slate from this past week. A big win at home against Lipscomb, and then a tough finish on the road at Northern Kentucky. But all in all, a big week for Brittany Starling.
Yeah, she continues to produce double-doubles, which is, obviously good for our program. It's good to see her doing well, and we just got to find some more answers and get some wins. But she is playing very well and doing some good things for us.
And we're going to focus in on her play just a bit because she has once again been selected as the Atlantic Sun Conference's Player of the Week. It was a historic day here as she had another double-double in the home win against Lipscomb. She's now climbed to 16th all-time on the scoring list. She's reached 9th in rebounding thanks to the double-doubles across this past week, and a historic day here in the Hodge Center in the win over Lipscomb, making all the difference in her climbing those charts. And she continues to just write history for your team.
She does, and I think the biggest thing, and I've talked to her about this, is that there's no coincidence that she's playing more minutes and staying out of foul trouble, and that's making her stats produce. So that's a good thing, again, for us to see that she's staying out of foul trouble and producing stats for us. But again, as I tell her that, if she stays on the floor, she's going to get a double-double when she plays those kind of minutes.
Maybe the most exciting thing for you is that she's just a junior, going to be back for you another year.
Definitely. We're glad to have her back, and we just want to continue to see her play well this year and get that confidence, and we look forward to having her back for another year.
Since we're talking about individual players, I know it's on a lot of folks' minds, the injuries that we saw here in this building over this past weekend. We saw Kristen Dickerson have an issue over near the sideline, and then Lauren Bogle with what appeared to be a serious injury down on the baseline. Walk us through the health of your team, particularly with those two players.
Well, both of them are obviously okay right now. We're just day to day, week to week, whatever it's going to be. I think they'll both be back. We just got to take it, again, day by day, and just kind of see how they do. But we're fortunate that it wasn't as serious as it could have been. We kind of thought it might be, but. We're glad that it's not serious, and we'll get them back hopefully maybe the second round of the conference.
Looking back at those two games, aside from the individual performances we're talking about, I know you weren't as pleased with the finish you got up at Northern Kentucky, but another competitive conference game in that one as well.
Yeah, it was a great game to be a part of. It was back and forth, and I told the team in the huddle one time, it's just, basketball's a game of runs. They would make a run, we'd make a run, they'd go up, we'd come back, or we'd go up, they'd come back, and then, just put yourself in a position. We competed. We just, down the stretch, the last 2.5 minutes, we come away with, there was like 4 straight possessions. We come away with, not scoring. We had a wide open jump shot, some missed free throws, and then we turned the ball over. And you just can't do that in a game of that magnitude down the stretch there. But I felt like we competed and played hard, put ourselves in the position to win. We still had a couple attempts as the buzzer sounded to tie the game and to send it in overtime. But I felt like we played hard. We played hard enough to win. We just didn't come away. And again, we just got to keep grinding and trying to get better. And I'm again well pleased with how our effort was.
You're in the midst of unquestionably your most brutal stretch of the conference season. You went on the road to Highland Heights. Now you head to the top 2 teams in the conference and face them on the road, beginning with Florida Gulf Coast on Thursday and then at Stetson on Saturday. This is a tough moment for your team, but an opportunity for you to really make strides in the conference.
Two great teams, 2 great basketball, different, but again, 2 great basketball teams that have dominated our conference and are really set the standards for us. And we just going to work hard and go in and try to compete and let the result take care of itself. So. We're just happy, and we're going to go in and compete and see what happens.
Florida Gulf Coast is up first tomorrow night, and we were talking off camera about how difficult they've been. They've made it tough on opponents to score. What's going to be your formula for success as you go into that game? What do you feel like you really have to do to be successful?
Well, I think obviously we can't go periods without scoring. We can't have those big gaps that we've had before when you're playing a good team like them, because they can obviously put points on the board in a lot of different ways. We got to protect the three-point line. They shoot the ball very well. You know, they shoot, you know, 30s, high 30s of, you know, attempts, and you know, their goal is to make probably 15 or 16, and that's a lot. So we really got to do a great job of protecting the three-point line and not like coming down and letting them have 2 or 3 possessions where they hit back-to-back threes and get the crowd involved. We got to step up. Our defense has got to step up and get some stops when we need to.
Well, thanks for your time, Coach. We'll all be keeping an eye on your team and your trip through the Sunshine State this week.
Thank you.
It's a chance when you play the top-tier teams in the conference to really make waves in the early portion of the conference season. You can keep an eye on what happens with the ladies basketball team at UpstateSpartans.com. We'll be back with more Center Court right after this. Welcome back to Center Court as we go inside the game with Coach Eddie Payne. Coach, there was a play from Saturday's game against Northern Kentucky where Ty Green fed Marvin for the finish at the other end, but it was the defensive aspect of that play that really fed the offense.
Well, I think we got a deflection, got a steal, and converted. When we are active defensively and getting our hands on balls and coming up with steals and things like that, we've been pretty good at taking them quickly in transition and converting into points, and that's what happened on that particular play, and that was during a good stretch for us.
One of the better alley-oop plays you'll ever see. Now let's turn our attention to the health of your team on our Spartanburg Regional Sports Medicine Injury Report. Anybody who's banged up a bit or that is a point of concern for the training staff right now?
Nothing unusual. You know, guys are still getting treatment. They still have bumps and bruises, but as far as debilitating injuries or causing guys to miss time right now, nothing like that. We're thankful for that.
Saturday night was a special night here on the campus of USC Upstate. It was Hall of Fame induction Saturday. One of the players going into the Hall of Fame was Coach Payne's son, Luke, who had quite a storied career here at USC Upstate. Coach, I'll let you speak to just what a special moment that was for you, your family, and the basketball program to induct one of your coaches and your own son into the Hall of Fame.
Well, that was the first time we've inducted an athlete in basketball since I've been here. So, and the fact that it was Luke, it certainly made it special. Gave me an opportunity to publicly talk about Luke in a way that I've never done before. So I've really had an opportunity to tell people about who he is and how he became who he is. And so it was fun. It was fun. It was well-deserved and a special moment for our program and for our family.
Folks who may be new to the program, used to seeing Luke on the sidelines, maybe want a little bit deeper sense of what he did contribute during his time here as a student athlete. For our creative segment on this week's edition of Center Court, we'll look back at the memorable career of Luke Payne. Luke Payne. Luke Payne is the 14th person affiliated with the men's basketball program to be inducted into the Upstate Athletics Hall of Fame. He is also the first basketball inductee to have played at least a portion of his career on the Division I level. Luke was a member of the program from 2004 through 2008, playing his first 3 seasons on the Division II level and his senior year in the Division I ranks. He helped lead the Spartans to the 2005 Peach Belt Conference regular season championship and the 2006 Peach Belt Conference tournament title, the first ever Peach Belt Conference tournament championship won by an Upstate men's basketball team in the history of the storied program. These 2 years also coincided with back-to-back appearances in the NCAA Division II National Tournament. Luke then helped lead the transition to Division I as the go-to player on the 2007-2008 squad during the school's first year playing at the Division I level and in the Atlantic Sun Conference. He was named to the all-tournament teams at both the BP Top of the World Classic in Fairbanks, Alaska, and the State Farm Insurance Sun Bowl Tournament in El Paso, Texas. Luke also helped lead the team to its first ever win over a major Division I program when the Spartans defeated SMU
on the road in Dallas. He ranks 10th all-time with 1,381 points and is in the top 5 all-time in free throws made, three-pointers made, three-point attempts, and games started. He also remains in the top 10 in assists, field goals attempted, and games played. Luke was a standout in the classroom as well, graduating from Upstate in 2009 with a 3.8 GPA as a business administration major. In addition, he was a first-team academic all-district selection as a senior. Luke went on to play professional basketball in Australia, leading the Lakeside Lightning to the grand final championship of the Western Australia State Basketball League in 2009. A key contributor in their 2009 run, he averaged a team-best 25 points per game. Luke has returned to Upstate as a current member of the men's basketball coaching staff under the guidance of his father, Eddie Payne, for whom he played during his collegiate career. We are proud to welcome men's basketball all-time great Luke Payne into the Upstate Athletics Hall of Fame.
What a career for your son, Luke Payne, and what a moment to have him inducted into the Hall of Fame. And, Coach, now we turn our attention to the upcoming week for your basketball team. It's a big one. A lot of folks had this one circled before the season started. Florida Gulf Coast coming to the Hodge Center on Thursday to begin another tough conference week.
Well, they're a very good team, still the prohibitive favorite in the league. I think they've gone through some ups and downs just like we are currently going through, and so, you know, they're playing a little bit better now. And it's just another conference game. I mean, we've got to come in here and get better in practice next few days and hopefully perform better. But it's, as we talk about all the time, it's the nature of the beast in conference play. It's a grind. We just happen to have a home game against a really good team. But seems like we're describing every game like that right now. So we'll get ready for it and try to have our best ready for Thursday, and then of course, Saturday, we have to do it again.
I know you don't want to look too far ahead, but Stetson is waiting in the wings on Saturday. It's another home game. What does it mean to you to have these two games coming up at home when you come off of a couple of difficult losses like you did this past week?
Well, I guess it gives you a little bit better probability of success when you're playing at home, and it also puts a little pressure on you maybe to win at home because you don't want to lose at home. But those are all things that your team and your individuals and you have to learn how to handle, and they have to play in the moment, possession by possession. And we tell them all the time, doesn't matter if they're on this particular court or another court, same size, same height of the basket, we got to play. You know, we got to get better. So that's how we'll approach it, and hopefully we'll have a good result.
It was clear in the most recent home game that free throws was a point of emphasis that your team really tightened up and responded well on. Are there some other points of emphasis that you'll have heading into this week of basketball?
Well, with Florida Gulf Coast, they're really perimeter oriented, so we'll have to guard the perimeter, guard the drive. They got a number of guys that can bounce it and get into the paint, which always creates problems. So, you know, from a defensive perspective, that'll be a priority. And then offensively, we got to quit having these spells where we don't manage possessions well. We get up a couple games that we've gotten away from what's gotten us a lead, which in my whole experience in coaching, I've never understood that, but it happens on a regular basis with individuals. And so I'm a little disappointed in that aspect from an offensive execution perspective. So we got to get better at that.
Couple things to keep an eye on as you plan to come out and pack the Hodge this coming Thursday night as Upstate takes on Florida Gulf Coast, the team picked to win the Atlantic Sun Conference. Thanks as always for your time, Coach, and all the best this week.
Thank you, Jason.
Now we've reached the point in the show where we tally your votes on our social media Play of the Week. Surviving from 1 week ago, this outstanding defensive-offensive combination between Ty Green and Fred Miller. And now this week's play. It's going to be another play that was fed by defense onto the offensive end. It's Ty Green with the alley-oop to Marvin Smith. And you can make your selection on which of these two will survive to next week's edition of Center Court. Just tweet to @Upstate Spartans using the hashtag #CCTopPlay and indicate whether you want the Fred finish or the Marvin finish for our play of the week. That's a wrap on this week's edition of Center Court. With conference season in full swing, you want to keep up with all Upstate athletics at upstatespartans.com. We'll look forward to seeing you next Wednesday night. Until then, have a great week. Go Spartans.